Well, my name is Tyler Wozny. I'm one of the owners of Gameday Men's Health in our Manhattan clinics. We opened up our first Manhattan clinic in December on 22nd Street between 5th and 6th. And then we're just poised to open our second in Manhattan on 58th and Lexington. So we're covering two really important parts of the city, and then we're going to grow from there.
So I'm Dr. Hal Mohammed. I'm one of the medical directors, one of the owners of Gameday Men's Health in Aventura, Boca, and Weston. We were actually the first to open on the East Coast, still the fastest to open in the history of the franchise. Tyler and I are actually partnered in the Aventura location, which is our third location.
The city of New York, Boricua from the Bronx.
It's a franchise per se. I mean, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but is that?
That's right. Yeah. So we both met Dr. Evan Miller, who's the founder of the brand based out of San Diego. And he really saw a place in the market for a brick and mortar, medically supervised men's performance practice that really helped guys look, feel, and perform their best as they aged. And so he had built out some corporate owned units and then realized that it was really a national opportunity. And so in that process of looking for some partners to help him franchise, Dr. Howe and I and many others really hopped on the bandwagon. And Dr. Howe mentioned first to bring it to the East Coast. We're really first to market in New York State, focusing on New York City. And we just hit the 300 mark in terms of 300 units nationwide. So Gameday Men's Health is and will continue to become a household name when it comes to men's health. We're super excited about the growth, and we're super excited about all the guys we've been able to help.
That's pretty, I thought it was a slightly lower number. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're actually the largest men's health network in the world at this point. And 300, we're just getting started. There's slated to be about 1,000 brick and mortar clinics around the country, and we're actually we've expanded into Canada already, and there are plans for global expansion. So
this is fascinating. It's not just TRT, right? You're basically, tell me, like, what's the objective? Like, is it to optimize the male form, or like what's the vision here? Like, so if I go to you guys, I'm on TRT right now. So, as a matter of fact, today is my inject day. So today I inject DECA, testosterone, and semaglutide, right? So those are the three things that I'm on through the clinic and stuff that I go through. Like, what would your vision be with a guy like me, for instance?
Dr. Hal, take it away.
I mean, so we have our core services, which, include hormone replacement therapy with testosterone, medically supervised weight loss, erectile performance issues, vitamin wellness, musculoskeletal pain, expanding into longevity panels, advanced diagnostics. And so, yes, we do what you're in your clinic for. We do that, but we're doing it guideline-based, evidence-based, physician-supervised. I'm board certified internal medicine, been in practice for about 10 years, and 10 medical licenses across the country. Pristine, I sit on the medical advisory board for Gameday. We've got about board certified physicians that Evan, powwows with on a regular basis. So that's, I think, the main difference between us and some of the other men's health clinics that are out there. You mentioned you're on DECA?
Correct. Yes. They
Okay.
put me on DECA well, I have some pretty gnarly joint injuries from jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and stuff. So I have some herniated discs, but the DECA was put on to help with the joint pain. That's why they put me on the Nandrolone, to try and help with a couple of tears and stuff. So it's supposed to have helped with that. Honestly, I don't know whether or not it really is helping, but it's making me feel more buffed. So
That's an anabolic steroid. There's a lot of risk involved in using a medication like that. And if it's not done in the correct way, you can run into cardiovascular risks, liver issues. It doesn't, I think there's different options that you should be looking at. Are you in New York State?
yes, I am.
Okay. We should talk offline about that. I think, I would be happy to sort of give you a telehealth visit and, complimentary on us so you can sort of see what we do. I know Tyler's in Manhattan, so you can always walk in there and sort of see the difference between, I guess some other folks are doing versus us. So
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm super curious, how did you start on your TRT journey? How long have you been doing it for? What was the enzyme to get started? Yeah, super curious. What's your journey?
Yeah, for sure. I was going to get a vasectomy. So that was the first step in this thing, right? I've known for a while that my testosterone was low, but
Mm.
I didn't want to start TRT. For one, I'm terrified of needles, right? To
Okay.
this day, I still shake when I inject, and I wanted to try to do it naturally. So I've been eating the
Mm.
cruciferous vegetables, trying the selenium and all the supplements, trying to do it naturally, but nothing worked. So I went to get the vasectomy at this men's clinic, and while I was there, I noticed they had all the TRT stuff and they also did all that. So I engaged them on that. And from that conversation, I kind of said, my testosterone was like 250, 275, 300. It was fairly low. And I'd been trying to do it naturally for years, never worked, nothing happened. So I said, you know what? It looks like this is my path. And I went down that avenue. And it's been about 2 years now. 2 years I've been taking testosterone. I never noticed the alleged increase in energy and libido and all that. I didn't notice anything. The one thing I'll say is that I recover quicker from training.
Mm.
That's the
Okay.
one true thing I noticed. I was still fat. I was still tired. I was as horny as I always was. So I was already horny by default. My libido's have always been high, even when my test was low. I didn't notice whatever things that we say you're supposed to feel great, and that didn't happen. I'm still down a lot and whatever, but I recover quicker. That's for
Mm.
sure. It didn't help. So like, I also occasionally pop, the Tadalafil,
Mm.
for functionality and stuff to keep me confident in that area. I don't think it helped with any of that stuff either, So I mean, I think it's mostly up here. That's the thing. When it's up here, the meds ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like they're not gonna do
Mm.
what,
Mm.
if you're in your head, you're in your head. I don't care how potent you are. Sorry, that was long-winded, but
Mm.
that's kind of
No,
been
it's
my
great.
journey.
I mean, it's so interesting learnings for me. I mean, this is probably old hat for Dr. Howe, but for me, seeing the guys that come into the practice with like a super wide range of issues, we hear a lot of the similar stuff: low energy, poor sleep, inability to build, maintain muscle mass, repair after injury or exertion. Like we hear all those things, libido, but every guy is just a little bit different. And so, everything from what they're coming in for to what their outcome is nuanced. Relaying what Dr. Howe said before, us being medically supervised is just a super critical part of the experience, because when we start a new patient, we're absolutely seeing them, at least 6 weeks after they start, and then at least quarterly after that, with access to the team whenever they need it, whenever they're feeling differently, because you're going to have a slightly different reaction than your buddy or than your dad or your brother. And so having that medical team behind you to constantly refresh blood work, to constantly do follow-ups, and having the right questions being asked is critical for the long-term outcome.
You guys mentioned several times medically supervised. Can you explain that? Because like the clinic I go to is run by a doctor. So I see the doctor every 3 months. Is that different when you're emphasizing that? So I'm curious,
I'll take that. I'm a huge patient, patient advocate. And what I've noticed in some of the men's health centers is you may see a doctor, but are they an MD, or are they, are they not? That's one thing. We have medical directors in every single one of our clinics. So those physicians are supervising all of our clinical directors, which may be, a PA or a nurse practitioner, but they're never operating on their own, and there's never any questionable practices that happen in some of the men's health, centers or some of the men's health clinics that are out there. That's the main difference that we've seen. The industry, it's been around a little while. It's always like smaller clinics in I don't want to call them shady, but it just feels that way. And you go in there and there may be, a doctor's medical license hung up somewhere, but you're never going to actually see that doctor, or that doctor's not going to have contact with the clinical director that's actually managing your care. Hormonal health is very nuanced. It is. The American Urological Association actually puts out guidelines for it, and we follow those guidelines. And we're very quick to, if we're outside of our lane, if I feel uncomfortable with the course of care of a patient, I've got endocrinology and urology on speed dial that, we'll send them right over to. Some of the other men's health clinics, we're also 300 medical directors strong and probably double that in clinic directors. And we're in constant contact with them as well. No one's operating in a vacuum.
And I think we see a ton of guys coming in who have maybe worked with some online medical provider. It sounds like your experience has been pretty good, which is awesome. Like, that's what we want to hear. We see a lot of guys coming in from online, or they got something from some guy in the back of their gym, and you would be shocked, maybe not shocked, but I was certainly shocked at some of the stuff we hear and see as guys come in to see us. And in quite a few cases, we're having to really turn the ship around because they're at super therapeutic levels of testosterone. They have weird reactions at their injection site that no one's paid any attention to. You may meet with some medical professional right when you get started, but you're never talking to one again. This is a big decision that affects your life in the long term. And so that's why we harp on the medically supervised piece, just because we see so many guys coming in from places and avenues that were absolutely not medically supervised.
Yeah, the doctor I see is the guy who did the vasectomy, so I'm assuming that's a legitimate
Probably
guy.
urologist.
I did go to an endo some time ago, and she actually said that urology is much more flexible than endocrinology with testosterone and prescribing it, and that she would not have put me on test, even though my test was where it was at. And she's like, we'd have to get you off it, blah, blah, blah. You're going to feel like crap for 6 months. And then we'll try to figure out why it's low rather than prescribe it. And I'm like, I'm kind of in already. You know what I mean? Like, I like, even my hair's falling out a bit, like I'm looking at you guys, and you guys have a beautiful hairlines, and I'm like, damn, man, I'm still shiny, I got that Jack Nicholson thing going.
So the hair thing, the acne thing, that's genetics, unfortunately. Testosterone can do that. What happens is it increases sebum production, which is what's causing, the acne. It converts to DHT, which is the more potent form of testosterone in your body. That's what's causing the hair loss, but it's a genetic predisposition. So with someone like yourself, that, if we saw that you were having those issues, we would probably lower the dose, maybe split the dose, try to work on those side effects. I don't use DECA. I'm not a huge fan of DECA. It's been approved for like anemia, short-term use, things of that nature. But if you're with a urologist that's comfortable using it and he's monitoring you closely, you should be fine. How often do you see him?
Every 3 months.
Every 3 months. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And then how often are your injections?
So I split them up. I think it was half a syringe every 2 weeks. So what I did is broke that into quarters. So instead of every 2 weeks, I'll do 0.01 twice a week. That's how I do the DECA. The testosterone, I was at 1.1 basically syringe, and I split that twice. So 0.5 and 0.6. I do it twice a week, and the semaglutide once a week. So that's the split I've been doing with that. But you guys are kind of raising my flags here, because the endocrinologist told me to get off the DECA when I went to see her. My testosterone was at 1100. When she did the blood work, it was 1100. And she's like, it's really high, and we also don't think you should be taking DECA at all. So she was very much against the DECA. She said basically the same things, cardiovascular issues and stuff, which I've also heard about with the test.
So there was a study done last year. They completed that study. The Travers trial was the largest study that was ever done on testosterone. About 5,000 men with and without cardiovascular disease, and they found that there was no risk. If it's done in a therapeutic manner, meaning a physiological dose that you actually need, then there's really no risk of cardiovascular issues. That myth was perpetuated because men's health clinics were overdosing, and guys were, we see these guys coming in all the time from like med spas with clinicians that don't really have aesthetic clinicians that are great at what they do with, Botox and filler and those things. But then hormonal health is a little bit more, involved, a little bit more medical. And they'll come in and they'll be on, pretty high doses, and their levels are pretty high, and we have to sort of fix those issues. That's what Tyler's talking about.
Yeah. So, from what you're saying, it sounds like you guys, again, with the medical supervised and all that stuff, because my initial thought was, oh, this is like a McDonald's of men's health. You know what I mean? Because if it's all over the place, my initial thought when I read the stuff, and I no disrespect to you guys, talking to you guys, I'm seeing my initial response was like, oh man, this thing is becoming like a McDonald's type of thing, you know? So how do you like, I guess you kind of answered that already, like with the supervisors and everything, keeping track of, you keep everything in line, right? It's not, you know, like a one template fits all and we're just pumping people out like fast food. You know what I mean? Like,
No, I think there's probably like a negative connotation to that. There's also like a positive connotation to that. You know, you walk into a McDonald's and you get the same burger everywhere. It's typically, well, I haven't been to McDonald's in a while. It's not really part of my men's health regimen, but like, you know, it should be clean. There's this, you know, there's a set way of doing things. And like, you know, to Dr. Howe's point around, you know, we follow the protocols that the American Medical Association puts out. And that's what we're monitoring across the entire network, so that, you know, there are no rogue players. There's no cowboys or cowgirls doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So yeah, we don't see ourselves as fast food in terms of just giving everybody a burger. One of my favorite things Dr. Howe says is we're not a Wendy's. There's a large number of guys who walk in the door that do not qualify for what we do. They say that I want to go on TRT. Well, your levels are not low. If you have energy issues or if you have libido issues, you know, let's look somewhere else because TRT is not right for you. And we have those conversations constantly. You know, we're really particular about who we help and who becomes a client.
Yeah, I think people may think that TRT is like this magic thing that, you know, just fixes you. And like I said, I feel pretty much the same all the time anyway, you know, except my recovery is good. I could train 3-4 days a week, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. And it's like nothing. I just recover, you know. Other than that, no magical thing happened. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
I mean, but that's amazing. I mean, how old are you?
47.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, year-old men across the nation are like, their ears are perking up right now because they're not in that case where they're repairing after working out 7 days a week. Like, it just doesn't happen. And so, you know, for you, like, you may not have seen like, you sounded like you didn't have a libido issue. You didn't really have an energy issue. So there was nothing really to fix there, right? But what you have done is like really allowed your body to do the things that you have loved doing for years. And like, that's a huge success story. So I love that.
Yeah. I train jiu-jitsu, and usually after jiu-jitsu, if I wasn't on the TRT, I need a week or two to recover. I'm just beat. It's just tears me down, especially with the injuries and the pain. I'm just laid out. But now I could keep going. I teach Zumba several times a week. The only limiter for me right now is pain, and that's because of the injuries. You know, like I tried BPC, I believe it was 157 if I remember correctly. But I took an oral form of that. I wasn't injected because I don't want to inject that crap in my neck. We're not going to do that, you know. But I don't know that. I mean, the injury's pretty there. You know what I mean? It's not going to just magically go away, you know.
Well, you have a brilliant doctor on the line. I mean, you know, Dr. Howe, what do you think?
First of all, BPC 157, the oral form of that, it's not really effective because it just doesn't metabolize the same way like the injected form would. Also, it really depends on the injury itself. If you've got disc issues, peptides may help, but it's more muscular issues that peptides really, really help with. So I've had golf elbow, tennis elbow, and I've done the peptides, and I've done shockwave therapy that we offer in the clinic. And after a week of every other day treatment, I'm right back on the course. So that does help. Definitely, I'd love to talk to you about like offline and see if there's something that we can help with. I'd love to see your protocols and what you're doing and which doctor you're at, and, you know, just offer my opinion. I tend to I'll never second guess a physician, but I can offer my opinion from the men's health standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. I'm totally open to that. And I saw, like, I was reading y'all's biographies and stuff, and dude, you were a stockbroker, like a trader, was it? And then you became a doctor. Like this dude's like a prodigy.
I grew up in New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn. Went to all the schools there. Michael E. Burdy, then Mark Twain, then Stuyvesant, and then I went into finance when I was 19 years old in 1999 at Ladenburg Thalmann. Became a retail stockbroker, and then eventually in 2003, I went into banking and made it to VP of private client services. And then at one point, mom and dad were like, "That's enough. Go be a doctor like a good Indian boy." And that's when I went off to med school. And then, when I came back, I actually went overseas for med school, but then I did my residency in Chicago at Advocate Masonic. I did top 100 hospital there. I was resident of the year, was voted class representative, and then started and ran hospitalist programs across the Midwest and South Florida. And then I was medical director, regional medical director, chief medical officer of a pretty large organization in Miami. Did that for about 4 years before I realized, concierge medicine is really where I want to go. So when you mentioned McDonald's, I was like, I sort of see us more as like the Four Seasons of Men's Health. I relish that. So I love being able to explain the difference of what we're doing. My friends joke with me that I've got a venture capital fund in it. So I've made my money in mobile home parks. And my friends joke that I took garbage and turned it into gold. And the next step was like, okay, what's missing in medicine? We got to remove the insurance part, I think 100%, which is why I gravitated towards concierge medicine. And then men's health in general has just been a maligned industry. It's been filled with, shysters, really, right? And how do you change that? Follow guidelines, make sure everyone's certified, and we're medical, we're clinical, and we're academics. And that's the main difference. What Tyler mentioned is we send away more guys than we sign up because we're only going to do what's right for the patient, and the success comes, afterwards. The network of franchisees out there that are, the men's health, the Gameday franchisees, there are some heavy hitters in there. There are some folks that have, wild successes in their businesses, and they looked at this and they said, this is it. Like, this is, it was almost like a light switch. It's the fastest growing franchise, 1,000 units sold in less than a year. It's pretty incredible if you think about it. So, those guys recognize it. Those guys are, like super guys I totally respect, like Tyler himself. Same thing, when you look at Tyler's TV, you're just like blown away by it. So he saw the value in this. He saw what we're trying to do. And I'm happy to be on the rocket ship. So.
And I think and Angel, the one thing I'll just add to that is like, when a guy walks into a Game Day Men's Health, like the feedback we get is not that it's some like cookie cutter, like there's real people working there who like really care. And so, the experience for our guys, they love hanging out. Like, we've got big screen TVs, comfortable sofas, we got coffee, we've got healthy snacks. And so our guys coming in weekly for their injections, it's a little break for them. What we've done is created a place where guys just feel really comfortable and they feel like they are being heard for the first time in probably a long time. And so, we feel really proud of the culture that we've created of our practices and the patients that come to see us.
It certainly got my interest, and I do want to definitely check it out. I did miss the grand opening, but I still want to check the place out, So like you guys mentioned with the insurance, you're trying to cut on insurance. So my guy is also out of pocket, right? And I just paid nearly $800. So every 3 months, I'm dropping $800, which, I mean, I'd love to just pay a $30 copay, right? And go through a urologist. But I've had a very challenging time, first of all, finding a neurologist. I went to the endo just as a test to see, and she just didn't even approve of it at all. And I had like 2 urologist appointments and they didn't even show up. They straight up didn't show up to the appointment. You know what I mean? So so I had to go back to my guy because I just had no other alternative. So, but I was trying to go through insurance because, right now I'm out of work. So I've been out of work for a year. So I've been looking for work, interviewing, and it's rough, right? So I was trying not to spend it, but it kind of seems like you don't have much choice. Because again, I tried to go through my insurance and find it, and they just didn't show up.
Yeah.
I mean, can you believe like you make an appointment with a client and you just no call, you just no show?
Yeah, we've heard cases where guys have come to us because their urologists or whoever they went to like ran out and didn't have any of their medication on order, so they were just sort of like off, and they're like, I can't live in a world where something that's medically prescribed is sort of like a maybe. So we've heard tons of horror stories. Hal probably has an infinite number.
Yeah, I mean, what you mentioned about going in every 3 months, that's amazing, right? We monitor our guys even closer than that. If you go to a urologist, try to go through your insurance, there's no way they can't see you that often. Insurance just won't allow for it. Insurance will tell you, okay, if your testosterone is below, I think the number is 264, that's when you qualify for testosterone replacement. They don't look at free testosterone levels. They're not looking at sex hormone, like the binding globulin. They don't look at the whole picture. They just say, if it's below 264, that's when we're going to cover it. And then you mentioned $30 copay, but you're paying a premium, or someone's paying a premium, whether it's you or your employer. It ends up costing even more. You don't have that personalized service that you do with Gameday.
You guys, it seemed like if I read correctly, is it like kind of like subscription based? Can you explain the cost model, how that kind of works and stuff?
Yeah, so we always say we're never going to be the cheapest, out there. We're not an online option. You're coming into a brick and mortar location. You're supervised by board certified clinicians that are supervised by physicians as well, and so there is a cost to it, right? It's not the cheapest, but I don't think anything we do is more than your normal out of pocket for an insurance-based practice.
It is subscription, so you're paying for a monthly type of scenario?
Correct. Yeah.
But it all depends on the treatment. We work with medical weight loss. We work with hormone replacement therapy, peptide therapies. We have sexual performance therapies. They all have slightly different price points depending on the level of interaction that is needed from the medical team as well as the medication itself. There isn't sort of like a membership fee that you pay on a monthly basis no matter what you do. It's really dependent on service and what that looks like. But what we really pride ourselves on is transparent pricing. So everyone knows what they're getting. There's no hidden fees. We have one price where everything's included, all our visits, access to the clinical team, follow-ups, medication, like the whole thing, shipping. And, guys can cancel at any time. We don't do contracts. And so we want to bring the transparency and, just honestly good business practices to an industry that typically hasn't had it.
I saw just something you said there. So I'm not going to say prices that were sent to me, like, because we don't need to talk about that, but the meds are included? Like you provide the meds to the people, or is that done through the pharmacy, or like?
No, it's all inclusive. Whatever we charge includes the medication, follow-ups, interact with the medical team, advice, all that stuff. In some states, for example, New York State is a great example. We are not allowed, or rather, all lab work must be patient pay. And so in Florida, like LabCorp, for example, is able to charge us and then we charge the patient, right? And so we can include that as part of a total service. In New York State, we are legally not allowed to do that. LabCorp has to charge the patient directly and go through their insurance. I see it as a major disadvantage for the consumer because all of a sudden those prices increase dramatically because insurance is often involved. But for guys who don't have insurance, they're paying, I've seen 5, 6, 7 times as much for lab work done in New York State than they would pay in Florida. We're not there yet in terms of having the ability to lobby for rules and regulations like that, but we want to get to a place where, we're consumer first and we're patient first. And a big part of that has to do with transparent pricing and not being gouged based off of whether insurance deals have been made or whether they haven't been made.
Y'all saw what happened. People are not happy with insurance. In fact, my physical therapist is also out of pocket because I realize that if you want proper treatment that isn't rushed and isn't cookie cutter and isn't controlled by some deals, you kind of got to go on your own. This is how I got to do it with my men's health, same thing with my physical therapy out of pocket. I will, but what I want to do is see if it ends up costing me the same working with you guys as I'm working with these guys in terms of just the total overall, or, because I do pay for the meds out of pocket. So semaglutide, I pay, I think it's $200 something for a month's supply. I stretch it out maybe a month and a half. The test is covered by insurance, but the deck is also out of pocket because it's compounded. So if I look at all the numbers, it ends up being the same. I'd totally be willing to give a try because you certainly got my interest in terms of even your concerns with the DECA being potentially harmful, because my cholesterol's high, so that's obviously a concern with.
You're talking to the right guys. We would love to have you as a patient.
Thank you. Cool. Now definitely reach out because I'm interested, like I said, the DECA was making me feel more jacked and stronger and stuff. But if it comes at the cost of me having a heart attack or a stroke or something, we're not, I'll pass on the DECA.
Yeah, no,
Totally.
there's definite risks to that. We've taken on patients where they come from other places that are maybe cheaper or whatever. And I tell them, you know what, why don't you try this out for 3 months? You know, whatever we can do to help a patient, we will, especially a patient that has come in and we notice that things are out of whack, especially on their labs and just, you know, the protocols that they're on and are either not enough or too aggressive. And we will help them out how we can. So
we try and be good stewards in the communities. Most game days, certainly both our practices in Florida and New York, are big supporters of first responders. We automatic 20% off for first responders. All our wonderful police, fire, paramedics, teachers, all first responders get that discount because we believe that this level of medical care should be offered to everybody. And so, you know, we really want to be good stewards in the community.
Pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a first responder, prior military. You know,
Well, then we include military as part of it.
I actually tell some of my patients, do you have military in your family? It's first degree relative, and that's enough for me because they're taking care of us. You guys are taking care of us. We're going to take care of you.
Exactly.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. I mean, do you guys treat yourselves as well? Like, you're on the protocol and everything? Because you guys got your whole damn head of hair, man. I'm jealous. Damn genetics, man. My pops, man.
I mean, I don't treat myself. Luckily, I work with wonderful medical professionals. I'm not one of them. And so, you know, I am a patient of my own practice. And, you know, I talk to guys about all the stuff that I do. So, for example, I'm on HGH peptides. You know, my testosterone, for whatever reason, is, you know, pretty high for my age. Last time I checked it was around 800. I'm 41 years old. And so, you know, I wouldn't and I don't qualify for testosterone replacement therapy. I also don't feel the symptoms, so it's just not right for me. Yeah, and I still got that head of hair. But, you know, for me, as I entered my 40s especially, felt that I just didn't have, you know, the level of energy in the gym that I had. You know, we all still want to look good naked as we get older. And, you know, we don't shy away from that fact that, like, the presentation is a big part of men's health and feeling confident. And so I wanted that extra energy and to be able to build and maintain muscle mass, because I see that for myself as a really important marker of my own longevity, because muscle mass is a huge indicator of being able to last to 100 and continue to be playing tennis and skiing and doing all the things that I love to do well into my 80s, 90s, 100s and beyond. And so, yeah, I do HGH peptides, which is something that we offer here at Game Day. I also do NAD, which is, you know, very hot, I hear, in the LA crowd, which is all about longevity. And so, you know, those are the places where I'm leaning in, and because that was what was important to me. And I know Dr. Hal has his own.
My testosterone levels are my testosterone levels are actually 8, so I don't qualify either. No, but I am on HGH peptides as well, and I've been on the weight loss medications. I actually lost 55 pounds on tirzepatide. So, you know, I'm not shy about telling patients that I'm also a patient.
I've been pretty honest with people because they see like changes happening, you know. They see like, Angel, you're starting to get lean and stuff. What are you doing? And I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna bullshit you and be like, hey man, it's all about your diet and your dedication, man. I'm very honest when there's people ask me, I'm like, listen, I'm injecting some shit. You know?
Yeah.
Angel, think about it. Like you know, if you get everything right and you have high cholesterol or you have high blood pressure, you need medication for it, right? It's just not going to go away. If you're doing everything right and you still have those issues, then you require some help. It's the same thing with these weight loss medications and testosterone and replacement therapy. It's for a deficiency. It's something that you have a need for. Get everything right first. I'm a huge believer in get your 8 hours of sleep. You have to diet. I don't care what you follow, but you got to follow something. And then the exercise, 150 minutes a week minimum, where you can't hold a conversation and remove stress in your life, whether it's people or jobs or wives or girlfriends, whatever you got to do to sort of remove that. And then we talk about interventions. So 95% of guys are going to be, you know, pretty good with doing the big stuff. So
yeah. It was hard for me, like, because I feel like I was cheating. You know, I felt like I was cheating because my whole life I've been, like I said, I was in the military, so I have a certain mindset in how I do things. You know, just dedication, hardcore, and it was really difficult accepting that all that eating clean, eating my meals, fasting, training every day, doing all these things, just staying fat, staying heavy, not still being tired, and kind of accepting that I had to. It was hard for me because again, I've always been a proponent of earn it, So I feel like in a way I'm kind of cheating, but I'm always honest about it when people ask me because I don't want to give them this false impression that me at 47 can drop 30 pounds just by eating lettuce and chicken breasts. Listen, I'm taking this Ozempic thing. I'm injecting testosterone and, you know,
It's a deficiency, though. The average American male at age 30 starts dropping 1 to 2% a year. And that has always been that way. But then over the last 20 to 30 years, you're seeing 20 to 30% decreases on top of that. The average American male was in the 1970s, and now we're 200 plus pounds is the average American male. So, what's the number one cause of low testosterone? Obesity. And it's just a vicious circle because you're obese, you have low testosterone, and because you have low testosterone, you get fatter, and then your testosterone continues to drop. So it's not a cheat code. It's a medication that you need. You have low testosterone and testosterone deficiency, and you're treating that. I think that stigma where we're really, really working on. Part of the reason we do so many of these podcasts and talks and stuff like that is because we want people to know, what, it's normal. It happens at 37, you're middle-aged in the United States because we die at 74. So things are going to start happening. Things are going to start declining. It's not going to be the same.
And, as I think about the sort of taboo nature of what we do, and I see it on a day-to-day basis changing. Like I'm at a party and people don't know who I am, and all of a sudden everyone's talking about their testosterone levels, where a couple of years ago that would have never happened. And so, we believe that every guy has the right to know his numbers. And so that's why we offer a complimentary testosterone test, complimentary PSA test for prostate health. So guys can come in and get educated. Like there's no handcuffs, there's no hidden fees or anything like that. We just believe in education and knowledge and awareness. Too often we have guys coming in who have asked for, hey, I'm really curious, like what are my testosterone levels? And doctors sometimes often won't prescribe the test even. And so they have to find another way to get it. That taboo nature is changing. The education and people willing to take, the knowledge and their medical health and well-being into their own hands is changing. And, similar to how 20 years ago, someone would say, hey, I did Botox. Really? Where? Like, what is that? Like, is it dangerous? And now fast forward 20 years later, it's like, who's your Botox person? Like how often do you get it? You know what I mean? It's become, part of culture. And I think a lot of what we do around men's health will ideally and hopefully become that way as well.
Normalizing it.
Exactly.
I'm pretty open about it. Even mental health too. I take meds for this guy up here, and I'm pretty open with that as well. You get anxiety, my MRI machine broke me. I've had anxiety all my life, but never to the point where it was panic attacks until my latest MRI for my neck. And that MRI something snapped. It just snapped me. I don't know what happened. And all of a sudden I have to take meds just to function, to be calm and function. But I'm also open about.
What were your testosterone levels? What are your free testosterone and total testosterone levels?
Presently, I just had a test recently, but the last one, I don't remember if it was the free or total, but it was 1100.
It's probably the total.
Yeah, and I'd have to dig up the file to see the other one. I don't recall that one, but I can send you that offline and you can check it. But it was one number was 1100. Like, do you guys consider that okay, or would you shoot for some? Because you both mentioned 800. Or you 801, you had to one up them. One. Is that like okay, or would you be concerned at a number like that?
Well, it depends on what your free testosterone is. That's the one that's actually bioavailable for your receptors. So a total testosterone of 1100 puts you at the high end of the scale, but really depending on what your free testosterone numbers look like, and then clinically how you feel. Your age, your comorbidities. I wonder if the anxiety symptoms, sometimes that can mask low testosterone, or low testosterone could actually look like depressive symptoms and anxiety. And once you get that correct, those other things tend to disappear. Yesterday I did a video on that about older guys who've got depressive symptoms. It may just be low testosterone, and you don't necessarily need to be on medication or doing behavioral therapy, but you're also, you're military, so you may have other things going on there as well. I know a lot of military have PTSD and some of the things that you've probably seen and had to do and all that.
When I was maybe 13 years old, this is before the military,
Mhm.
I was used as a shield in a shootout. I was actually used as a shield. So the guy held me, he pointed the gun over my face and shot at a car. Then the guy in the car pulled out his weapon and pointed it at us. So I'm looking down the barrel of this shotgun, and thank God, I mean, look, I start shaking just remembering. Thank God he didn't pull the trigger and he just drove off. So that's just an example to give you perspective of, I guess, to me, that was normal. So that was just like, this is growing up in the Bronx. This is normal. This is what it is, and my therapist was like, Angel, you do understand that this is not normal. And there's a reason why all of a sudden you just snapped. Something broke because you've been suppressing this and you've been manning up, right? All my life I've been manning up. Something bad happens, whatever, suck it up. And I've been manning up. And then I guess that MRI, man, they put me in that thing and it's a wrap. I just start freaking out, shaking, and now I'm on the serotonin medication and antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, and just kind of happened. But she's like, yeah, it happened because you never dealt with the fact that somebody pointed a 12-gauge shotgun at you while somebody was holding you, shooting at them. But again, it's a Bronx childhood. To me, this was just everyday type of stuff. It was just, here we are.
I'm sorry that happened to you, man. That sounds brutal. That sounds really, really tough to deal with. Yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn when Brooklyn was Brooklyn, but nothing like that. So yeah. Wow.
Yeah, to me, it was just every day. Friends get killed, friends get shot. It's just normal stuff. It's funny to me because a lot of times today people think that, we didn't all have a silver spoon like you, Angel. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, these guys, they assume because I got a Pomeranian, a cute little Pom that I walk, I put on a button-down shirt every once in a while. They have no idea, It's funny to me when they say silver spoon. I'm like, wow, okay, yeah. I've kept you guys on a while. I don't want to tie you up too long, but I really appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the offer to check you guys out. I'll definitely reach out. If there's anything you guys want to let listeners know before I let you guys go. So
we got patients coming in. I know Dr. Howell wants to get back to holidays. Yeah. So just from my side, Angel, huge thank you to have us on. It was a great chat. Love learning about you, and thank you for your candidness. It always helps us in when we talk to current and future patients. For all the listeners out there, if you have guys in your life who are aging and are feeling the symptoms, so low energy, low libido, lack of libido, lack of ability to build or maintain muscle mass, poor sleep, poor focus, and brain fog, come to Gameday Men's Health. We have a complimentary testosterone and PSA test. So not only are you going to figure out what your T levels are, but you're going to get a sense for, do I have a healthy prostate, which is really important, especially as you hit 40 and above. And then we go from there with no obligation other than to help you succeed. Invite your friends.
I saw your pedigree also, man, in your bio. I was checking all you guys out, man. All well-established folks. So
yeah, from my end, like Tyler said, we invite pretty much everyone that's on HRT or doing testosterone replacement at med spas or non-medical offices to come check out the difference between us and what's out there. We put the patient first, and success comes afterwards, and that's exactly what's happening now. I think there's a huge movement. Gameday is not, it's not Tyler, it's not me, it's not Evan, it's a movement, and patients are starting to recognize that. So I think if you just go through some of the reviews, you'll notice what patients are thinking when they come in here, and they're coming from all different kinds of places, and they're really seeing the difference between us and what's out there. So
yeah, I'm actually super excited. Like,
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
I'm amped right now. I'm like, awesome. It can get better. But then I'm gonna go and set something up. I'm pretty stoked. Like, it's awesome. Exciting because it feels like things can get better.
Totally.
And that's exciting to me, especially with.
And then 6 to 8 weeks later, we may be able to do this again and see your experience, after coming with us. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I thank you guys
again. All right, boys, I gotta get back to the
much.
wife and baby.
Be well.
You are listening to the NYC Talking podcast. www.nyctalking.com. Please like NYC Talking on Facebook. Please follow Angel R Talk on Twitter and Instagram. We are NYC Talking, the realest lifestyle blog ever. Thanks for listening.